Walk like an Egyptian. Walk like an Egyptian.
Welcome to ancient Egypt, friends, where you're going to see that ancient Egypt was just Florida and Sandals. The original land of sunshine, chaos, and decisions that absolutely no sober person should have made. If you think this is going to be some polite documentary with fancy British accents and polite speculation about alien pyramids, no, this isn't the video for you. You're in the wrong sand pit, my friend. This is Florida with eyeliner, the birthplace of civilization, if civilization means building massive tombs, worshipping vegetables, and handling medical problems with a combination of pee, poop, and divine erections. The Egyptians didn't just walk like an Egyptian. They partied, prayed, and perished like unhinged geniuses. They invented science, math, and condoms made of literal crocodile crap. And somehow, despite the sand, sunstroke, and hippos on murder sprees, it worked for thousands of years. So throw on some linen, squint into the desert, and prepare to be confused, entertained, and slightly concerned for humanity as a species. This is ancient Egypt, Florida's historical twin, but with more mummies and public lettuce worship. 1. Pharaohs had human fly traps. So, pharaohs were basically god kings with all the power. None of the personal hygiene, and absolutely zero patience for insects. But instead of inventing bug spray like normal people, they got creative. Their solution? Take a servant, a slave, slather that unfortunate fella in honey, and park them nearby like a sticky, buzzing scarecrow. This wasn't punishment. This was a full-time gig. Imagine standing there, covered in bee bait, while your royal boss lounges nearby in 100-degree heat, completely unbothered. You're sweating sugar, fighting off bugs like a human barbecue, and the guy on the throne just wants another date cake. Why didn't they just close a window or use smoke? Well, because windows hadn't been invented yet, and Egypt didn't believe in half measures. You either worship the sun, or you became a fly buffet for it. Honestly, it's less of a pest control method and more of a performance art piece. And somewhere, in the ancient job scrolls, someone got promoted for inventing human bug zapper. 2. Lettuce was basically ancient Viagra. So forget oysters or chocolate. The ancient Egyptians saw lettuce. Yes, the leafy green in your sad lunch salad as the ultimate aphrodisiac. But not just any lettuce. Wild Egyptian lettuce stood extremely tall, leaked a white sap, and clearly gave some ancient farmer ideas. So they linked it to Min, the fertility god, who permanently walked around with his own tripod. Offerings of lettuce were made in temples, not kitchens. And if you were particularly desperate for divine action, you'd pile that lettuce high, really high. Nothing says romance like an erotic salad ritual. It wasn't symbolic, it was spiritual. Festivals celebrated fertility with lettuce displays and sometimes public celebrations of manhood. Picture a priest holding up a giant head of romaine like Simba in The Lion King while a crowd cheers for virility. If ancient Egypt had Instagram, they'd be entire accounts called @lettucelust. And now, thanks to Egypt, you'll never have a Caesar salad the same way again. 3, they yanked brains out through noses. So let's say you die in ancient Egypt. First off, condolences. Second, time to get your brain turned into nasal soup. Mummification wasn't just about wrapping you like a Chipotle burrito. It started with a long metal stick shoved up your nose to scramble your brain and pull it out in chunks. This wasn't some back alley nonsense either. This was state-sponsored, priest-approved cranial blender action. But here's the kicker. There's evidence they may have tried this on living people, too. Imagine walking into a clinic and someone says, "We're going to cure your migraines by scooping out your thoughts." It was medicine meets mayhem. And honestly, we're not even mad. We're just kind of impressed they tried. So, while modern surgery uses scalpels and lasers, ancient Egypt said, how about this glorified barbecue skewer? And a lot of optimism. Somehow they made it work. Or not. No one asked the patients. 4. The pregnancy test involved barley and pea. So, ancient Egyptians' pregnancy tests were less pharmaceutical and really more gardening experiment gone rogue. The method? Pea on a pile of barley and wheat seeds. If the seeds sprouted, congrats! You were baking a tiny pyramid builder. No test strips, no pea cups, just Mother Nature and pure audacity. Even crazier, modern science tested it and found it's about 70% accurate. Turns out hormones in urine really do affect seed growth. So yeah, Cleopatra's gynecologist was probably a farmer. And they didn't stop there. If barley sprouted first, it's a boy. If wheat won, girl. If neither, either you weren't pregnant or you really needed to hydrate. Now, imagine explaining this to your family. Sorry, Mom, can't go to the market. Gotta go water my pregnancy plants. Say what you want about ancient Egypt, but they were using sustainable, biodegradable, organic pea-powered diagnostic before it was cool. Call it the world's first eco-friendly OBGYN test. 5. One pharaoh hated being touched. Pharaoh Pepi II ruled for 94 long years, which is impressive, considering he seemed to hate literally everybody. This guy wouldn't shake hands, didn't want to hug, and probably flinched if someone said, "Group photo!" And to top it all off, he hired, those servant fly traps that we talked about earlier, and had them keep people away. That's not royalty. That's diva behavior cranked to max. Imagine being so important that you walk into a room and everyone just backs away, while some poor guy nearby drips with bees in the name of pest control. He was human embodiment of, I can't even. Was he an introvert? Allergic to humanity? Or just vibing on personal space level we can't comprehend? Either way, Pepi II invented social distancing 4,000 years before it was trendy. And he did it in style, with golden robes, fly slaves, and a don't touch me energy that screamed, Pharaoh, not friend. 6. Soldiers sometimes fought naked. Ancient Egypt's battle plan? Strip down and throw down. Some soldiers marched into war wearing nothing but confidence and probably some really well-tied sandals. Why? Maybe to move faster. Maybe for intimidation purposes. Or maybe because armor was expensive and pants were optional. Imagine you're a soldier from a neighboring kingdom, all armored up, and a wave of glistening, sunburnt, completely nude Egyptians charges at you with spears and absolutely nothing to lose. That's not war. That's nightmare fuel. Historians say this was sometimes ceremonial or symbolic, but let's be real. It was probably just hot, and they didn't want to chaff. Ancient Egypt said, we'll protect our nation, but we're not covering our butts doing it. Forget camouflage. Their strategy was psychological warfare with bonus tan lines. Honestly, we've got to respect the commitment. They didn't just fight for Egypt. They let it all hang out for Egypt. 7. Hippos were their biggest nightmare. Lions? Cute. Snakes? Child's play. The apex predator in ancient Egypt was the hippopotamus. A creature so dangerous it had the body of a beanbag chair and the soul of a rage-fueled bulldozer. These beasts flipped boats, destroyed crops, and chomped people like snacks. Egyptians feared them so much that hunting hippos became a ceremonial flex of pharaohs, the ancient version of wrestling a bear on TikTok. They even made the goddess of childbirth, Taweret, a pregnant hippo. Because when you need to protect a baby, you channel the animal that can snap crocodiles in half. Think about it. You live in a land full of scorpions and sandstorms, but it's the amphibious blubber tank that keeps you up at night. If you were an Egyptian kid, your monster under the bed didn't have claws. It had nostrils the size of cereal bowls. And it was angry. Always angry. Probably with good reason. Because people kept worshiping its cousin. 8. Cleopatra's birth control was crocodile poop. When it came to contraception, ancient Egypt got, well, let's say creative. Enter Cleopatra's birth control. A custom blend of honey, herbs, and dried crocodile dung, inserted directly into the sacred zone. Yes, crocodile poop. Because nothing says not to the light like marsh monster leftovers in your nether regions. Why? Well, it was believed to create a physical barrier, which sure, if you shove literal excrement into your body, people might keep their distance. It's unclear if it worked, but the confidence it takes to say, put the gator poop in the love canal, it's just unmatched. She wasn't just a queen. She was a biochem pioneer with a high tolerance for smell. Also, try explaining that to your partner. Don't worry, it's organic. Egyptian birth control was less Planned Parenthood and more planned post-traumatic stress disorder. Still, you got to admire civilization where people looked at a wild reptile, saw it poop, and said, that's going straight up my hoo-ha. 9. They worshipped a god with a permanent erection. Min, the Egyptian god of fertility, so remember him from the Viagra lettuce guy? Yeah, same omnipotent lad. Anyway, Min was always ready to party. And I mean always. Statues of him show him proudly displaying what can only be described as a mythological third leg. His entire divine resume, eternal, unrelenting, wood. Worshippers celebrated men with festivals full of phallic statues, lettuce offerings, because remember, lettuce equals libido, and lots of awkward public displays of affection towards a stoner boner. You think modern religions are weird? At least they don't build monuments to deities who are permanently halfway through a naughty dream. And let's not forget, Min was associated with harvest, reproduction, and male potency, which is a polite way of saying this god was ancient Viagra, but with a fan club. He wasn't just worshipped, he was admired. So next time you're in a museum and you see a statue looking a little too excited to be there, just know, that's not a design flaw, that's Min. And he's been standing proud for 4,000 years. 10. The afterlife had cheat codes. Death in ancient Egypt wasn't lights out. It was a multi-level, monster-filled role-playing game, and you needed hacks. Enter the Book of the Dead. Not a single book, but a customizable spell kit you could literally shop for. Want to bypass a soul-eating demon? There's a spell for that. Need to convince 42 underworld gods that you didn't fart in a temple? There's a spell for that too. This was Build a Bible meets Skyrim. The rich got full deluxe editions with cheat codes printed on papyrus. Poor folks, maybe a sticky note with "Don't die stupid" scribbled on it. And forget rest in peace. This was navigating chaos, dodging monsters, bribing judges, and if you passed, your heart was fed to a crocodile, lion, hippo, demon named Amit. So yeah, heaven wasn't a given. It was a bureaucratic maze of death administration. Egyptians didn't just fear death. They prepared like it was finals week, and their soul was on the line. And there you have it. Ancient Egypt, a place of glory, genius, and absolutely no chill whatsoever. They built pyramids so precise we still don't know how, yet filled them with lettuce, lube, and a little poop science. They worshipped erections, fought wars nude, and peed on seeds to see if they were pregnant, which, by the way, somehow worked. For 3,000 years, they did things that sounded like dares from a drunk god, and yet they thrived, they ruled, and they managed to scare off hippos, which is honestly harder than ruling an empire. Ancient Egypt wasn't just the cradle of civilization. It was civilization in full midlife crisis mode, and somehow it still looked fabulous doing it. So next time someone says history is boring, just show them this video. Then ask them if they've ever worshipped a fertility god who looked like a walking statue of awkward tension. Because this was Florida in Sandals with better architecture.